Okay, and then we start to move over. So that's the end of the appreciative inquiry pieces of this. And now we're starting people into the idea of the results assessment. Again, we're seeing that the results assessment follows the same steps as the process assessment, so we can move through that area fairly quickly. And in this particular case, we now start to talk a little bit more about the let's see area. And so that we have a certain amount of fairly detailed information about what you would tend to see in a chart, so that helps you to explain what the levels, trends, comparisons, and integration aspects are. So this particular slide, step through it piece by piece and make people be able to see the components of what you might see in a particular chart. This is particularly valuable because the charts you actually see in TBEM applications tend to be relatively small. They tend to be missing a lot of these components depending upon what the company is able to do. And so having the conversation about not only what are we possibly looking for to be able to do the let's see dimensions, but whether it's reasonable for companies to be able to provide this kind of information, or whether they should even be thinking about this information. That's not a bad thing to have as a conversation with the students. So we see the averages, benchmarks, and so that's just the example of it. And so the criteria, item, requirements, again, taking through this, we would then break people out into the groups and say, now we're on to the results item. What do you think these guys are really looking for? And this should give the table the time to talk not only about the specific types of results that are listed in the item, but also, again, to kind of reiterate within their own team this idea of levels, trends, comparators, and integration. One of the things that people should start to see here is that although when we are going through the TBEM process, we do tend to assign results items to particular category leads, at the end of the day, the results really do not have a one-to-one relationship with the process categories. So when somebody is doing an assessment of a results item, you need to look at the entirety of what the results are that are called for in that particular item. And so that might be part of the conversation there that comes up. Again, it's trying to make people not attempt to force the results into the process criteria. To give some insight into this, early days of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, the attempt was made that for every particular item there would always be a approach, a deployment, and a results section of every item. And so there was not a results category in the original version of the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. Over time, they started to find that the same result would actually be something that was indicative of the success of multiple types of processes. And so it became fairly clear that you could no longer have a one-to-one relationship. And so the Baldrige organization moved the results over into a separate category, and then did what they could to try to get an affinity type of clustering of those results, which is what resulted, came through in the current results items. Again, that's part of what the people might discover as they're going through their review at their table. Okay, and now we are introducing them into the LETCI area again, reiterating what that is, giving a very brief review of what levels, trends, comparators, and integration is. This particular slide is probably the most succinct of the ways in which you can talk about let's see all at one place here. You can spend as much or as little time as you want to on it. There will be more material that follows directly that gets into more detail about each of these things here. So again, you can either spend time on this one or spend more time on the later material. Try not to spend a lot of time on this and then a lot of time on the following material. So integration, and then we go through it and we see the linkages, potential leakages of what you might expect to see in a results item based upon what was told to you in a process item. So a lot of what you were looking for in a results area is going to be based upon not a particular list of stuff that you should find in results, but what the applicant themselves are telling you that they look for, or that they are trying to track and move forward on within their process items. Tendency is to find a lot of material that you would use for the results, you look for in results, being talked about actually in category 2, which is around strategy, where people are saying, here's action plans, and how do we know our action plans are moving forward? Usually there's a place in the strategy area where people talk about the types of metrics that they would be looking for, and that kind of helps you to feed through what would be important things in the results section. performance levels. And then we go into trends, and again, this is a more extension of the materials that were on that previous slide. Again, either spend time on that one or spend time on these ones. Don't you need to be careful not to spend too much time telling people something that you have already told them in significant depth. Comparators, you'll see that there it's highlighted words here. Relevance of the comparators is kind of important here, and there's a lot of discussion that can happen during a TBEM assessment as to whether what's being shown to you is relevant. So make sure you're telling your people are seeing that the key business factors are going to be very strongly used in the results section too, to help you to determine whether comparators are relevant based upon what the company says it's trying to accomplish in its organizational profile, and hence into the key business factors. Okay, and now we're about to give them day 2 homework, which is to start to work on their results items that they had done in their prior homework. And so this is talking about what would be important results, high, medium, and low. Part of the intention on here is that any given TBEM application, you tend to be given a very large number of results items, and in the context of the attention that the team pays to things and how they score it, really a fairly small percentage of those ones that are given to you are really perceived as the key items that are strong indicators of how the company is doing overall. And so having people have that mindset of whether a particular result is either meaningful and or important is pretty useful here. And so we give them their individual assignment report areas here. This is again something we expect them to take back to their hotel room or wherever it is they're staying and actually do some individual work, which is why you have the little person sitting at the desk there. And the template that they can fill in for that is here. This template will show up again in the following day as part of the table tasks. And so but this is helping them to do a little bit of individual thought processes on this before the start tomorrow. And then at the end of the day here, we have them go through a post-it note process. Again, just 2 important messages, put them on the wall, and then end of day 2, they can go on home. Okay, that's the end of day 2. And then the next day will be day 3 of the Business Excellence Leaders Program.